Week 15 certainly brought the fireworks as we welcome you into our CBS Sports HQ studios for game day recap. Starting the show a little different today, but we got the band back together. Damien Harris joining us back on the desk for Week 15.
He's back!
He's back. I love when we're all together. I mean, I love when our guys fill in, but man, I love having the crew back together. We got Rand over there celebrating in the turtleneck, Rand.
Just a little razzle-dazzle.
A little
razzle-dazzle.
Setting the tone over there.
Where's your pipe, sir?
I got one.
Hey, we've also got Pete Prisco joining us here. Normally we start the show off with the biggest storyline of the day, but really, fellas, today the storylines were the injuries, namely Patrick Mahomes, Micah Parsons, some big names, Davante Adams. Here's a list of some of the notable injuries we saw today, and I mentioned it. Patrick Mahomes, a MRI has confirmed that he has torn his ACL. The team also confirming that as well online, as you can see on your screen there. Sean McVay, when it comes to Davante Adams, he says it's the same hamstring. His status for Thursday up in the air. And Micah Parsons, meanwhile, believed to have torn his ACL. He's going to go through some further testing to confirm, but obviously some big concerns going forward. So let's get to how these will impact us. We bring in our injury analyst, Marty Jaramillo. I mean, Marty, any way you slice it, these names are certainly not what you want to hear at this point of the season. So let's start with Patrick Mahomes, because the Chiefs not only eliminated from postseason play today, Marty, but the bigger story, Patrick Mahomes. And really, when you look at the 2026 season, even, this is going to impact them. So talk us through the severity here with what we know with Patrick Mahomes and that ACL.
Man, to have these kind of injuries at this point in the season, it is just has incredible implications, not only for playoffs, but also when can they return to play, particularly next year. So Patrick Mahomes suffered what we call a quasi non-contact knee injury, because he was trying to roll out. He got contacted by the defender and he hyperextended that left knee. 70% of all ACL injuries in football are non-contact. Think about that. Despite the physicality of the game, still a majority of all ACL injuries are non-contact. So here is what's happening today and tomorrow. There is nothing but chaos in the Mahomes camp. The question marks: what do I do? When do I have surgery? Who's going to do the surgery? When can I come back? What does it look for in terms of my career long term? That's the chaos. That's all the balls in the air. But then when all that settles, and then you have a plan of care, guess what? An ACL injury, and you and Haley and I have talked about this many times, an ACL injury is nothing short of an opportunity to get better, stronger, fitter, and faster. Why? Because a year away from football, just about a year, is nothing but an opportunity. Get your mind straight, get your body healed, work on all the deficits you've been working on and catching up with. So the average ACL rehab is approximately 6 to 8 months. He will miss OTAs, which come around March, but he'll be actually almost jogging by OTAs, right? So I have zero concerns short term, okay? He will have surgery within the next 48 hours. That's the best window to do that. And he will have no long-term concerns. I'll say that again for my Kansas City Chiefs fan all over the world. No long-term concerns. Why? Because it's Patrick Mahomes. The discipline, the work ethic, the IQ, what he does already for recovery. So I have no concerns there whatsoever. But tough news coming out of Kansas City.
Yeah, just like I said, not only eliminated from postseason play, but then the quarterback as well, getting that torn ACL. So all things that we will continue to monitor as we learn more about Patrick Mahomes. Let's talk about Micah Parsons next, Marty, because his was a little bit, it was non-contact, obviously. We saw it there in the third quarter. I do want to get your perspective, but before we do, let's hear from Matt LaFleur on what he had to say with an update.
Yeah, it doesn't look good, so I'll leave it at that.
What goes through your mind when you see that happening on the field, especially to that guy?
Well, I think same thing that goes through my mind when I see any player for that matter. You don't wish that on anybody. So, but it's obviously tough. I mean, we all know what type of player he is and the impact he's had on our football team. And to lose somebody like that it's tough. But there's. Like I said, nobody's going to feel sorry for us. We got to find a way, and guys got to rally around one another.
Marty, you could almost see it in his reaction and his answer there, just how almost drained he is, knowing what's maybe the news that we'll hear again. We're still waiting on an official diagnosis here, but a different position than what we just talked about with Patrick Mahomes being a quarterback. How does this impact Micah Parsons and the Packers?
Well, Haley, that's a great question. So, Coach LaFleur, his face said it all. You know why? Because the replay also says it all. It doesn't lie. It was a non-contact injury where you see the knee buckle. And what the athlete, what the player feels is a mini explosion inside the knee, and you know something is seriously wrong right then and there. The pain doesn't last that long, but the fear starts immediately. Now, today, tomorrow, we'll get multiple diagnostic scans to see the true extent of that injury, possibly ACL and possibly some other structures, including meniscus and maybe some other ligaments. So time will tell exactly what the diagnosis is, but just like Coach LaFleur had in terms of his face, his reaction, I had the same reaction as well. Once again, if it is ACL, and we'll confirm over the next couple of days, it's still a 6 to 8 month window.
Just real quick, Marty, because again, we talked about with Patrick Mahomes and him being a quarterback, and not to say that Micah doesn't have the same medical staff. He takes care of his body just as well, too. But maybe the difference in positioning there when it comes to the rehabilitation, a quarterback versus a defensive end, what's the difference like?
Yeah. Well, the stop and go, the speed, the dynamic explosion and acceleration that Micah Parsons possesses, that actually lends itself. I said the window 6 to 8 months. When you have that kind of speed, that talent that he was born with, the speed is just incredible. So that's going to delay the rehab just a little bit because we have to work. Once we get the ACL healed and he strengthens his entire body and he's ready to start running, then we start adding change of the direction and the constant cutting in all directions with also stop, go, acceleration, and that's the real window. So we're going to look at him possibly 8 to 10 months for an athlete at that position, someone as explosive as Micah Parsons.
All right, we did have another injury that was not an ACL. Davante Adams re-aggravating his hamstring. We know, Marty, they're on a short week here. Sean McVay did say after the game he's not going to rule him out yet, but obviously still things up in the air. But with it being a short week and him re-aggravating it, what does that tell you about what the future looks like for Davante Adams?
You know, this is really bad news for the Rams, because think about it. It's a short week, and we know hamstring injuries are just very tricky to treat. Just 2 years ago, you and I talked about Justin Jefferson, everyone's #1 pick in fantasy football, missed 8 weeks to start the season in 23. Why? Hamstring injuries are tricky because first, the tears are small, but they are deep. Number one. Number two, they have poor circulation. So automatically, you have to be conservative. Number three, he has a history of hamstring injuries, not just nursing one this past week. So unlikely, I feel very comfortable saying unlikely he can play in that shortened week. That said, multiple scans to see not only the depth of the tear, the extent of the tear, how much is it a new tear, how much it is just a re-aggravation of an old tear. That said, at minimum, we're looking at 2 to 3 weeks of rest. And as we know, these can get tricky. They can extend to 4 to 6 weeks as well.
Yeah, looking at the upcoming schedule for the Rams, Davante Adams leads the NFL with 14 receiving touchdowns this year, so obviously a big blow, but we will see how it all comes together. Marty, we appreciate your time and your insight, catching us up to speed here with some of these injuries that we've unfortunately seen in Week 15. That's what we bring you here on CBS Sports HQ. Anything you want in terms of the sports world, we have it for you for free, streaming 24/7. Coming up, let's get back to the football, shall we? The Buffalo Bills were down 21-0. Did they not learn anything from the Cowboys-Eagles game a couple weeks ago? How the Bills took down the Patriots. Next on Game Day Recap. And then there were 23 teams remaining in Super Bowl contention. That is the fewest with 4 weeks to play since 2005. One of them, not Kansas City. The Chiefs, of course, have been eliminated. LA, meanwhile, gets the sweep of them this season. Of course, we talked about the injury with our guy Marty Jaramillo, but lots of surprising scores. The Bengals getting shut out by the Ravens after beating them a couple weeks ago. The Texans putting 40 on the Cardinals. Let's bring in the fellas and discuss. We're going to start with that Buffalo Bills game today, though, guys, because they were down 21-0. What was it, going into halftime? There were some conversations that were obviously said. Sean McDermott losing his voice in the postgame. But this really just boils down to your boy, Josh Allen. He keeps showing up in big ways, and he keeps helping this team be successful.
It's hard to knock a guy out of that top spot. And granted, they still might not win the division, but that game shows you that Buffalo is still relevant in the whole big picture of the AFC. And I've been saying this a long time. I think they're the one team, you know how I feel about that team, they're the one team nobody's going to want to play in the postseason. It doesn't mean they're going to win it all, but it's the one team you don't want to play because of that guy. Josh Allen took that game over in the second half. Now, Cook ran the ball, and they did some things defensively, but this was about Josh Allen. 3 touchdown passes. He was moving, getting outside the pocket, creating, and I think that's the reason why they came back and won that game. You're down 21-0. You could have packed it up and gone home. The weather's bad, it's nasty, it's cold, and not that they're not used to that, and they didn't. That tells you a lot about that team.
Yeah, he went into the locker room at halftime, put his cape on, and he came out ready to ball.
I got to get this out again, man. Let me dust it off.
In the words of DMX, here we go again. And so he just showed up and just did what an MVP is supposed to do, and that's put the team on your back and make whatever play you need to, whether that's with your arm or with your legs. Because in the first half, he missed some throws, some fairly easy throws. But again, when you're an MVP and when you're that caliber player and it's time for your team to make a play or your team needs you to make a play, you go and make a play, however it gets done. And he continues to do that. And I agree with Pete. I think as it goes and the tournament starts, this is going to be a team no one wants to play.
Yeah, no, both of you are absolutely right. And Josh Allen showed today he is still the reigning most valuable player in the National Football League. And he's had a couple games like that. They've lost a couple games here and there that have made us forget about the greatness of Josh Allen. But it was on full display today. The way he played, absolutely outstanding. Creating plays, running the football, hitting those throws in the second half, he was phenomenal. But I do want to talk about the rest of the team because they played their part in the second half. And, you know, Rand, I sat up here and apologized to the Buffalo Bills fans. I had to apologize again, Haley, because I was sitting here talking about this is about to be BTA all over again at halftime. But what did the Buffalo Bills do? They came out, they punched New England in the mouth. What did the defense do? They started to get pressure on Drake May, which got New England's offense out of rhythm. And you talked about James Cook. Well, let's talk about all the running backs because they all played a key role in this football game. You look at Ray Davis and setting up the return game, setting up the offense with the kickoff returns. You look at what James Cook was able to do to be the steady workhorse. Look at Ty Johnson. We talked about this. When the game was on the line, third down, and they had to have it. They didn't give it to James Cook. They gave it to Ty Johnson, another experienced back that has played at a high level for them all year. So I definitely want to give Josh Allen his credit. He played like the best quarterback in the NFL today, but I'm really proud of the rest of the guys that stepped up around him in that second half. They were able to pull out a tough win.
By the way, Haley, no Mahomes in the playoffs.
I know.
No Burrow in the playoffs. There's a chance Lamar Jackson won't be in the playoffs, but Josh Allen's going to be.
I had a note here somewhere. This is like the first time since like the early 2000s that there's no Patrick Mahomes, no Tom Brady, and I believe Peyton Manning was the other one. So obviously it's a different era. But I think the flip side of this conversation is it going to be sustainable? Because that's always the conversation we have with this Bills team is if they can continue going. I want to look at the other side of this one because we've been talking about the MVP race and we've been talking about this game and what that would look like. Drake May didn't have a terrible game. 14 of 23, 155 passing yards. He was held under 200 passing yards there. But Damien, when you look at how the Patriots, I guess, were disrupted, why did this collapse for New England?
Well, I think it was breakdowns in protection. I think in the second half, Buffalo started to apply pressure more by sending secondary guys. They blitzed Matthew Milano, who had 2 sacks today. They just got the offensive line on their heels. And as a quarterback, when your offensive line starts to get shaky, nothing can go on in your offense. You can't establish a run game, which they did a phenomenal job of in the second half. They even had the big run with Travion Henderson in the second half. But outside of that, they didn't really have a rhythm running the football. And then Drake May, it wasn't like he was making bad decisions because of the pressure, but he just didn't have places to go with the football at certain times. So they started to get off rhythm. He was throwing the ball away. He had to take a couple sacks. The defense for the Buffalo Bills, they just made those timely stops. And honestly, when I looked at this game, I thought both teams played really well. I just thought that Buffalo made the plays when they mattered the most, and that's why they won the football game.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about it. In the first half, they couldn't stop a nosebleed. Couldn't tackle, weren't right in their run fits, and we saw New England just really establish the run, whether it's with Travion Henderson or Ramondre Stevenson. They both were having success on the ground in the earlier part of the game, but then you come out in the second half, and those run fits are tighter. And like you said, you started bringing the extra guy, and you mentioned Matt Milano, 10 tackles on the day, 2 TFLs, 2 sacks, another guy that stepped up and made plays when they had to, and you really just kept Drake May kind of confined in himself and kept him in that pocket. And we talked about that last play of the game, like, why isn't Joey Bosa coming forward? Why are they dropping him in coverage? And then, boom, he gets the tip that ends the game for him. So that defense really made the second half adjustment, came out, executed, and was able to stop that New England offense.
When you're a young team and you have a 21-0 lead, you got to learn how to put your foot on the neck and knock them out. They didn't. And that could come back and really haunt this Patriots team. They go on a road next week. They play Baltimore. They're sitting there. They had the 1 seed. Well, now they don't have the 1 seed anymore. And all of a sudden you're looking up and you thought you might have a first-round bye. And the playoffs were going through Foxborough. Now it's not going to be the case probably. So that game, when they look back on their season, yeah, they've had a great season, and they still might get hot in the playoffs. But when they look back on what's happened in this regular season and everything they did, you had a 21-0 lead at the halftime. You have to put that game away. That's a great lesson for a young team.
I want to ask you before we move on here, you specifically, because you've been leaning on this Bills team to be the representative of the AFC, in terms of your playoff there. Did today's game, I guess, what did it teach you? Or does that you still believe that the Bills are going to make it based on what you saw out of them today?
I think the AFC is wide open. I think anybody, and look, Denver has the 1 seed right now. Anybody can win. The difference between them and everybody else who will be in the playoffs is that guy, Superman. And when Superman wants to be that guy and they allow him to be that guy, look out.
Okay, all right, we will keep our eyes on it. Let's hit a break here on Game Day Recap. When we come back, we are taking you to Kansas City, where the news that has rocked the NFL today. Patrick Mahomes torn ACL. His season is over. What does that mean for the Chiefs going forward? Our experts will weigh in. Not the news anyone wanted to hear in this game. Fourth quarter, Patrick Mahomes looking for a teammate. Instead, gets injured on the play. We have since learned that it is a torn ACL for Mahomes. The team confirming it as well, saying that they are going to work towards options for surgery, but not the news you want to hear if you are a teammate of Patrick Mahomes, if you are a fan of the Chiefs. Gardner Minshew did come into this game trying to save it because it was 16-13. The Chiefs' season is on the line, and with 17 seconds to go, he throws an interception. The Chargers seal it. They sweep the Chiefs this season as well, too, but the big story, of course, being Patrick Mahomes. After the game, he did take to social media and put out this tweet saying, quote, "Don't know why this had to happen, and not going to lie, it hurts, but all we can do now is trust in God and attack every single day over and over again. Thank you to Chiefs Kingdom for always supporting me and for everyone who has reached out and sent prayers." He ended it by saying, "I will be back stronger than ever." Some of these just feel a little bit worse than others, fellas. And the news, as I've said over and over again, just not what you want to hear. Patrick Mahomes tearing his ACL. We saw the message there as well. But I just kind of want to open the table here because not only is the season over for the Chiefs, but now you got to think big picture here, what 2026 even is going to look like. And we've already had the conversation of the dynasty, Pete. I mean, like, what does this really mean for Kansas City, both now and in the future?
Well, it means this year's done, and they were eliminated anyways, but it also means probably next year might be done. I mean, think about it. What's the fastest, quickest he can get back on the field? October? November? And if you're talking about Patrick Mahomes not being on the field in October and November, they're not going to be a playoff team. We see what Denver is in that division, but more than that, what's it mean for Andy Reid? I mean, Andy Reid's not a young man, and you know, I talk to him all the time. How long is he going to do it? How, you know, he wants to keep on doing it. But when you don't have Patrick Mahomes for a year, that's another year you're probably not going to win a lot of games. So there's a lot of concern in Kansas City. It's going to be so weird not to see them in the playoffs. I mean, and every week I sat here, I go, oh, they're going to get it right. Oh, here come the Chiefs. Watch out. They're going to get on a little run. Well, that run is over. And it's strange to say it, but the Kansas City Chiefs not being in the playoffs is really, really bad to see. But more than that, I'm worried about them going forward next year.
Yeah, and you don't want to ever count Patrick Mahomes out in terms of his recovery and how soon he's able to get back. And we know these surgeries nowadays, these guys get back quicker than ever. But I want to take it somewhere else because even if Patrick Mahomes misses time next year, this could be the last time we see Travis Kelce on the football field as well. And so you can enter a season next year where there's no Travis Kelce and there's no Patrick Mahomes. And so, like you said, from a team building standpoint, you now have to figure out what's our next step at quarterback. Is it Gardner Minshew? Is it another veteran quarterback to kind of bridge the gap, if you will? Are we going to address it via the draft and try to draft someone this year? So those are all questions. And you mentioned Andy Reid. I think from an Andy Reid perspective, this will give him a little juice in the offseason because now there's a big issue that he has to figure out. And this is what coaches are excited about. I remember a couple years ago talking to Mike Tomlin and asking him when they had Russell Wilson and they had Justin Fields, and it was the big question was who's going to start. And I remember talking to Mike Tomlin, and he felt excited because he was like, I have no clue who the hell my quarterback is going to be, but this is exciting. This is why you coach, and it sometimes give these guys juice. But again,
I'd rather have my quarterback. You can have the juice all you want. I'd rather have my quarterback.
But again, for a guy like Andy Reid, he's seen it all.
Right.
And he's seen it all, and so this may give him a little extra.
He's still
pep.
chasing Shula too. Let's not forget he could take him down as the all-time winningest coach if he stays in the game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But to further your point, Rand, I think that when you talk about Andy Reid having some extra motivation, some extra juice, you don't think Patrick Mahomes is going to have some extra motivation, some extra juice? He's going to be in Andy Reid's hip pocket and vice versa all throughout this rehabilitation process, whether it comes to deciding who's going to be the quarterback for our team right now, who gives us the best chance to win. Patrick Mahomes is going to probably be a part of that conversation. Well, what did we not do well last year that led to us missing the playoffs, regardless of if I'm playing or not? What can we do to make us a better football team? We heard it earlier, and we all have the confidence in Patrick Mahomes from a professionalism standpoint to be so locked in mentally, to be so locked in physically, to be so focused on getting back to a better version of himself. I know that he's going to implement that same mentality alongside of Andy Reid and trying to get this team back right and not in this window of missing the playoffs that they're in right now.
But what's the best case scenario?
The best case scenario, honestly, is that it's just clean ACL.
And how long?
And that, for him, the nature of his position, it could be still 6-7 months.
I
right?
want to add an interesting, while you're on this topic, I do want to add to see how much this matters, because we know in 2026 that the Chiefs are going to play the AFC East, and that includes going to Buffalo and also playing the Patriots, who we've seen take a step forward. They also have to play the NFC West, which includes the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Niners. So going back to what you're talking about, the recovery and trusting Patrick Mahomes, you still have that on the schedule. How does that change the conversation even in the front office when you're thinking about who's going to fill the time when he's not there?
But see, that's the conversation now. The conversation is what gives us the best chance once we know what his diagnosis is. What gives us the best chance? Is that going to be a a veteran stopgap quarterback? And who is that person, right? We've seen the Cleveland Browns try to do it with Joe Flacco. Then the Cincinnati Bengals try to do it with Joe Flacco. There'll be some veteran available to them that they feel like can help solve things or quiet things down until we know where Patrick Mahomes is. But like I was just saying with Pete, the big thing for them to figure out and hope for, obviously you don't want him hurt, but you just hope that it's just a clean ACL because that makes the recovery process a lot quicker. If there's other structural damage, and I know he was already dealing with some left knee soreness, if there's other structural things, that just only prolongs the healing process.
By the way, they were shell-shocked when he went down. I mean, you look at the play-by-play, and I said it when we were watching the game. He went down with 1:53 left, and they still had 2 timeouts left. They threw a pass, completed it for 11 yards, didn't throw another pass and snap the ball again to 118, from 153 to 118. Then it went down to 37 seconds, and they didn't call timeout. And you know what they did? They took a timeout home with them. I mean, and then they felt rushed to try and they had the 5-yard delay a game, took them out of field goal range, and they tried and rushed to throw a pass. I mean, I think Andy Reid in that moment froze a little bit because they were all so shell-shocked by what happened to their star quarterback going down.
That penalty on that drive, that 5-yard penalty really hurt them because it not only took them out of field goal range, but then it forced Gardner Minshew to have to feel like he had to make a play.
But they were at the 39. Were you really out of field goal range? I mean, because the penalty took him out. It took him to 39. So he
Butker hasn't been
panicked.
reliable.
He panicked, but they should have been in a more calm, easygoing approach to the drive, and it all seemed so panicked. And I think they were shell-shocked seeing him on the sidelines.
Well, it's hard because I feel like Patrick Mahomes is that calming presence when you get in those moments. That's what we always say when it comes to this team. You can't count him out because of him in that moment. To finish the season, it will be Gardner Minshew, we assume, at least for next week. They've got the Titans, the Broncos, and the Raiders. I know the season
It's
is
an exhibition game. They're playing exhibition games.
We're just dotting our I's and crossing our T's
Got a job
over
to
here,
do, Pete.
If you want to switch seats, you can do that.
No, I'm just telling you, it doesn't matter anymore.
It is hard to sort of wrap our mind around it, but we will not see Patrick Mahomes for the rest of the season. Before we go to break, I do want to talk about the Chargers quickly because they did win this game. They did sweep the Chiefs first time in a decade. Rand, I'll come to you first here. What did you learn about the Chargers? Did that win maybe make you feel any different about them?
Yeah, this is a good football team. This is really a good football team, no matter what you may think of them. This is a really good football team. This defense is really starting to play together and gel together. They had 5 sacks on the day. Talopu, and Adafe Owe each had 2 sacks on the day. They had 5 total. Khalil Mack had the other. They just got after those guys because even when Patrick Mahomes was in the lineup, he was running around scrambling for his life. Obviously, they have the injuries up front on the Kansas City offensive line. But this team as a whole, they are playing complementary team football, and this is what you love to see as you go into the home stretch of the season.
They're physical on defense, and they still haven't become what we thought they would become on offense, which is a run-heavy team. You know, a team that can run it when they need to run it. Eventually, they might move to that. But their offensive line, you talk about their offensive line has issues too. But I think the last 2 weeks have taught me a lot about the Chargers. I expected them to Charger. I really did. I
haven't used that phrase in a long time.
No,
Been a while.
I expected them to collapse. I really did, and they showed me a lot by winning the last 2 weeks. Or 7 days, they won 2 big games.
Yeah, I mean we're just at that point in the season where we're starting to learn some teams that we thought were really good, they're not. Some teams that we wrote off, like the Chargers, they're a good football team. And Justin Herbert, he didn't have that great of it. I mean, it was 19 for 29, 210 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Those aren't gaudy numbers. Your leading rusher, Amari Hampton, 15 carries for 61. Nobody did anything spectacular, but they just play a brand of football that equates to winning, and now they're starting to win those football games.
Chargers have now won 6 of their last 7 since starting 4-3. And to add insult to injury, Justin Herbert passing Patrick Mahomes for most passing yards in a player's first 6 seasons. So they're cooking at the right time. I know. That's why I said insult to injury. Time for a break here on Game Day Recap. Nobody cheered louder for the Saints today than producer Jack because the Panthers finding a way to take the L. What this means for the division race going forward next on Game Day Recap. Oh, what a treat. Panthers, Saints coming down to the final few minutes. Charlie Smith, the hero, banging out a 47-yarder, 2 seconds left on the clock. The Panthers had a chance to take a step in the division. Instead, it is the Saints celebrating in the Big Easy. Although you see that big fat E next to their name, they've already been eliminated from postseason. But that doesn't mean you can't play a little spoiler there. So the Bucs and the Panthers currently tied at the top of this division. Tampa Bay holds the tiebreaker at the moment, but these 2 teams still have to play each other twice. So obviously there's still a lot to decide, but certainly things getting real interesting in the NFC South. Well, we asked them last week. I asked them, I pleaded with them. I said, Tampa Bay, you're on notice, but it should have been the Panthers that were on notice here. Damien, what stands out to you about the Panthers and the season they've had? Because we've had conversations where they've come out and they've surprised people. I believe they have, 7 underdog wins this year. And then they do things like today where they can't get the run game going. Bryce Young tries, but it ultimately ends up in a loss to the Saints.
That's exactly what is surprising, frustrating, exciting, thrilling, all the different emotions all at once. You go from beating the Rams last week, one of the better teams in the NFL, and then you just can't find a way to get it going against the New Orleans Saints. And like you said, Bryce, he tries. He does. The kid tries. He goes out there and he gives it what he's got. But the style of play for Carolina, it's so inconsistent, and they just ride the emotional roller coaster. It's like whenever they beat those big teams, they get so built up and they've got so much energy and so much enthusiasm, and then they've got another opponent the next week that might not be as good, and they just don't take the opportunity as seriously. But we've talked about it. This is a very young team, an organization that's not used to winning. So they're going to have to learn how to not only win, but sustain a standard and a method for winning football games because they just haven't found a way to do it consistently yet.
Yeah, go ahead, Haley.
Go ahead.
No, I'm saying what we've learned about this Carolina Panthers team is that they're young, they're inconsistent, they're still learning how to win. And the biggest thing you take away from this is that they play to the level of their competition. If it's a really good team, you see them at their best, they play up to that level. But if it's an opponent that they feel like, or we feel like they should just walk in and handle, they play down to the competition. Again, a young football team with a ton of young talent that still has to learn how to win these football games.
When you don't throw the ball better than they throw it, you're going to be in a lot of close games. And sometimes you win those close games, and sometimes you don't. And it's not just the quarterback. I mean, they're limited in what they have weapon-wise, and they don't really drive the ball down the field. I mean, he completed 15 of 24 for 163 today. I mean, how many games has he played, Bryce Young played this year, where he hasn't thrown for 200 yards in a game? It's amazing. And so I think until they get to the point where they can score a lot of points, they're going to be in a lot of close games. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. The other part of the equation is they lost twice to this team. Once at home and once on the road. I mean, you talk about, you look back on your season, if it doesn't go the way it does you hope it does down the stretch, you're going to look back at those two games and say, we lost to the Saints twice. So you usually are what you are, and we'll find out about them. They play the Bucs twice in the next 3 games. But had they won today, all they would have had to have done next week is beat the Bucs, and they would have won the division.
So then how does that, I guess, does that excite you for what's to come in the NFC South, knowing that it's coming down to the wire like this?
Neither team has played that well, to be honest with you. And I think the Bucs are limping down the stretch in a big way. I mean, you look, everybody talks about their passing game, and it came alive last week. But the defense can't stop anybody. They don't rush the passer.
Yes.
But the problem with Carolina is they don't throw the ball well enough. So something has to give next week. It's going to be an ugly team who wins a division. Let's put it that way.
Who do you think it is?
I think it's going to be the Bucs, just because I think they have experience on their side, and I think when it gets to those hard moments in the game, I think they've been there before, right? And they could just lean on their experience, and I think that's what ultimately get them over the hump. But I'm excited just to see how they're going to finish, see how this young team finish, and like you said, let's see where the Bucs are. Are they going to limp across the finish line, or are they just going to, put the head back and just run through and sprint strong and finish? And so I think this Bucs team is another team that if they start clicking, and I don't know where they're going to find a pass rush. I mean, they went and signed Jason Pierre-Paul off the street, who thought he was done in the NFL. That shows you the desperation that they have at the pass rush position. But I still think this is a good enough football team that can possibly win a playoff game.
I like the Bucs. I like the Bucs, and I think that Carolina will make it tough because they do have the ability to play up to the level of their competition. But when you talk about guys with experience, we're talking about guys like Mike Evans, Baker Mayfield, Chris Godwin, Levante Davis, like guys who have been in the league for a very, very long time. So whether it's playoff experience, Super Bowl experience, or just having that much more experience winning football games in the National Football League at the end of the season, they have that to their advantage. But I do think Carolina will make it very interesting.
I think Tampa's offense can get to where I thought it would be before the season with everybody coming back. I don't think their defense can come close to what I thought it would be, in large part because of the defensive line. I mean, Vita Vea, he doesn't do anything. He looks like he's about 370 right now. I mean, he just doesn't – I thought he'd be a dominant player on the inside. You know what they're really missing? And people forget about this. Kalijah Kancey would be in that lineup, and he was on the verge of having a big-time season. Him missing the years really impacted them on defense.
And that happened so early in the season that I think we would kind of forget about it. So that's a really great point there. Again, these two teams will have to play twice. That is the Panthers and the Bucs before the season is done. The first meeting coming next week in Carolina. All right, time for another timeout here on Game Day Recap. You mentioned Jason Pierre-Paul. Let's talk about another guy who came out of retirement to play football. Your classmate, Phillip Rivers, still hooping in 2025, but wasn't enough to pull out an upset. We've got all the conversation about Phillip Rivers. What a treat we have in Week 15. Phillip Rivers hasn't played football since, January of 2020. Here he is leading a potential game-winning drive later in this one. This was his first touchdown pass, though. The celebration as he hits Josh Downs. First touchdown since 2020. What a selly. 13-3 Colts. Under a minute left, Blake Groupie
60.
Gonna give the Colts the lead there. Yeah, that was a career long from him as well. 60 yards, as you heard from our boy Rand. So here come the Seahawks. 22 seconds to go. It is 16-15. The best kicker in the NFL this year, Jason Myers, doesn't even sweat it. A 56-yarder as the Seahawks take an 18-16 lead. They would go on to win that one. So if you were rooting for the Phillip Rivers comeback, here it is after the game.
hopefully, certainly I think of my sons and those ball players, that I'm in charge of at the school, that they'll say, like, crap, coach wasn't scared. You know what I mean? It's like, shoot, sometimes there is doubt, and it's real. And again, you can the guaranteed safe bet is to go home or to not go for it, and the other one is, shoot, let's see what happens. And so I hope that in that sense that it can be a positive to some young boys, or young people. It doesn't have to be boys, but.
What I was going to say was, if you're rooting for the feel-good story there for Phillip Rivers, he does not get the win, but the emotions there, fellas, say it all. We all had interesting reactions to that sound there, Rand. I want to come to you first because I got to know what's going on. What went through your mind when you saw that Phillip Rivers sound?
First of all, class of 04, right? Draft class of 04. Salute to you, Phil. I was shocked, because the high school that he coached at, one of my former teammates' son is the starting running back at that high school, who just signed with NC State because of the relationship with Phillip Rivers. And then all of a sudden you're working him out. Now, we talked about it on the show. We felt like they were going to do something unconventional, or had to do something unconventional, but not that far. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Not that much.
Like we looked up Josh Downs when he threw the touchdown pass. Josh Downs was 3 years old when Phillip Rivers entered the NFL. Like, you know how crazy that is? But, I mean, and he's a grandfather.
Yeah.
He might be one of the first grandfathers to ever play in the NFL in recent times. But, again, you knew the competitor of him, and the fact that he was able to process and see things and get it out quick. Now, the offensive play calling didn't help him out with a lot of short throws. They didn't push the ball down the field. And Pete asked, when we were off air, like, what do you do when Riley Leonard is back? I think this was evidence that if Riley Leonard is healthy, you need to go with him because he gives you the best chance to win.
I think you got to play Riley Leonard too, but I don't know if they will. I think they still think that Phillip Rivers might give him the best opportunity. You saw Riley Leonard go into that game last week, and what did Jacksonville do? They emptied the kitchen sink and just blitzed them all over the place. I mean, and he had no way to handle it. And, Phillip Rivers, you blitz him, at least he can get the ball out of his hands. It didn't go in past 12 yards, but at least he can get the ball. I mean, because he can't throw the ball down the field anymore. He completed 18 passes for 120 yards. His little drive to go get the game, what looked like it might be the game-winning field goal, he didn't throw the ball down the field at all. I mean, so bottom line is they're in big trouble. I love Phillip Rivers. He's one of my favorite guys I've ever been around covering this league. He's a pro's pro. But the Colts are done. Let's be real. They're finished.
Yeah, you know what this makes me think of when I was watching Phillip Rivers play today? You know all those dumb comments that people be making on social media, like, okay, if you got 20 snaps as a quarterback in the NFL, do you think you could complete one pass? Like, this is proof that you people sitting at home on a game, you can't do it. Okay, Phillip Rivers, one of the greatest potential future Hall of Famer, he struggled today. So all of y'all out there today, oh man, I can complete one pass, or the people out there that are like, man, if you got 10 carries, you think you can gain 5? Like, y'all can't do it, okay? Now that we got that out of the way, Pete, you're absolutely right.
Turn your mentions off.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
I already deleted apps. It's no disrespect. The truth is the truth. But at the end of the day, yes, the Colts are absolutely in trouble. But I do agree with Pete in a sense of you might have to go with Phillip Rivers, because even though we can look at these numbers and even though we can sit here and watch the tape of Phillip Rivers throwing the football today and say, he don't have it anymore, I still think he gets more respect from a defensive coordinator than a Riley Leonard. And if you have that at least, the best you can do is turn around and hand the football off to Jonathan Taylor, because there might be a hole somewhere because they would respect Phillip Rivers a little bit.
They did that today. Right. I mean, now, again, you were going against a top-tier defense.
Right.
Yes.
But you turned around and you gave Jonathan Taylor, I think he had over 25 carries, and I think they only averaged 3 yards a carry. Now, I know I'm feeding into Pete's theory.
I was going to say, they better keep handing it off.
I don't want to keep doing that.
He's getting closer and closer.
But it's still one of those things, just the young fella's legs. If things break down, he can at least be a threat with his legs, because that's what he's going to have to do, because he's not going to be all that proficient throwing the ball down the field. But again, great feel-good story. I just hope my man, again, class of 04, try this on for size. Let me just say this. Again, my career wasn't as long as his. I was in the front office for almost 2 decades, and now I'm doing this, and Phillip Rivers is still playing. Like, that is like crazy in my mind.
By the way, all the people out there said, what if we were playing the Raiders defense and I had to throw?
That's called moving the goalpost.
Yeah, right. I hate to burst the bubble, but
I could get 10 against them. I could get 10 yards against that Raiders defense.
okay.
10 against the
You couldn't
Raiders.
get 10 yards against our producers in the green room.
Yeah,
That
you don't
sounds
think
like a
so?
challenge.
No.
You're way off base on that one.
We got
Jack-
hey, Jackson might hear right now
Jack's
saying
with
he
it.
want a piece.
Jack's
run
with
right
it.
through
Listen, can we find, there's a stadium right across the street. Can we set something up, get some cameras, and get you covering someone or throwing against someone? We got to get that
Do you want
footage.
pads or flags?
Whatever you want.
Okay, we'll
I
get
haven't
some
had pads on in a long time.
That's all right. Carry that
Yeah,
weight.
you played when the helmets were soft.
Okay, we
No,
got to
they
get
were
back on
hard.
track here. Let's talk about the Rams, guys. You guys are a mess playing with your helmets were soft. This was a fun game to watch. The Lambs, oh my gosh. The Lions and the Rams kind of going back and forth, but it ultimately ends up being the Rams who stand tall in this one. It's crazy how the playoff picture, we do this each and every week, and how teams are going from first to seventh and the moving parts. Here's what it looks like currently with the Rams clinching postseason, the current 1 seed in the NFC, and then the rest of the teams there. We also know, though, fellas, that the Rams and the Seahawks are going to play again. Rand, what excites you? It feels like a loaded question, but what excites you about the way that this NFC playoff picture and the race itself is going to finish, starting with both the Rams and the Seahawks, that game coming up?
I just love the fact, having spent so much time in the NFC West, that the top of this playoff picture is going to be someone from the NFC West. And they have to play each other and finish strong. And then everyone in this division is going to play each other. And we talked about last week, the Seahawks have to finish their season Week 18 against the 49ers, who are competing for, that 6 or 7 spot, and they're going to be going back and forth. So again, it's a kudos to the NFL schedule makers for the job they've done in making these division games late, because this year in particular, these games are going to be meaningful down the stretch.
When I look at the Rams, we know they can score, and they're going to score on anybody. I'm worried a little bit about the defense last couple games. And you see some things where they blow coverages. The secondary hadn't played as well. They only had 1 sack. Remember, the calling card of this defense going into the season was, they're going to be able to get after the quarterback and pressure the quarterback, and that'll lead to turnovers in the secondary. Even if you're not that great at the cornerback position, you're going to be able to cover it up. Well, they haven't rushed the passer as well, and those corners and that secondary has been kind of exposed a little bit. I mean, Jared Goff had a lot of open players today. What did he throw for? 338 yards. So if I can pinpoint one thing actually 2 things that worry me about the Rams. One is the secondary play. 2 is, combined with the lack of great pass rush right now, and 2 is the speed. And I say it all the time. At some point, now Adams is out of the lineup. Do they run well enough outside to scare anybody? Puka Nacua can get open against anybody, but does anybody scare you down the field?
Yeah, they don't have that elite team speed. They kind of remind me of like Penn State. They've got talented players, good coaching. They've got the right, but they just don't have that speed. Like, you don't feel excited. Like, you don't feel like anybody is gonna break the game open when they touch the ball. But on another note, something that worries me about the Rams, as great as they are offensively, in all the close games that they've been in, they've been under 30% on 3rd down. And so if you're an offense or you're a team really that's predicated on just scoring flat out, scoring more points than the other team, and obviously I know that's the name of the game, but when your defense isn't that great, you're going to have to score a lot of points. If you get stopped in midfield and you can't extend those drives, as great as Sean McVay is, if he can't scheme things open for Matthew Stafford to get players open on 3rd down, that's going to come to haunt them come playoff time and in the real stretch of the season.
We really have become nitpicky. They had 519 yards of offense.
Just listening to you guys, I was going to say, this team is pretty good.
They are.
No, they're really good, but there are some flaws that have shown up in the last 3 or 4 weeks, though.
Everybody's got flaws.
But I think the name of their game, we're talking about their team speed. I think they know that. Right, which is where we saw them feature kind of over the last quarter of the season or so. We saw them feature heavy 13 personnel, using the tight ends, using the twins in the backfield. I call them the twins, Kyron Williams and Blake Corum, because their styles are so similar. You get similar production out of them. And that's what Sean McVay is going to do down the stretch, depending on Devontae Adams' availability. Where's my matchup? and how can I exploit that? Is it 13 personnel? Is it using these backs now out of the backfield? How are we going to, and who better than Sean McVay to be able to come up with a 1-week game plan to win a football game?
He's great at it. He's great at it. But let's not forget, and we can go back to when they were in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. They had schemed their way to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff. Remember? I'm not talking about the Stafford one. I'm talking about the Jared Goff one. When they got to the Super Bowl, it became apparent that their scheme wasn't going to work because they got out-schemed that night by Bill Belichick and his defense. And so you can have all the great schemes you want, but ultimately it comes down, you know this as well as anybody, and so do you, it comes down to the players.
What do you think of Matt Stafford and the MVP conversation real quick?
I think he's the MVP leader right now. I think Drake May had the ball late in the game to go win the MVP or at least keep himself up there, and he didn't go do it.
Yeah, I think so. But I think it's more than just the numbers. Because I think a lot of times when we're looking at Matthew Stafford and the numbers and we're talking about his touchdown to interception ratio, if you look at a lot of those touchdowns come in the low red zone, right? Those moments where you RPO, you pull it, you hit the 2-yard slant to Devontae or the fade to Devontae from the 5-yard line. But I just think the level in which he's playing, we talked about it upstairs. Is there anyone that is a better pure thrower of the football than Matthew Stafford?
No.
And Matthew Stafford, we joke and we laughed about the Phillip Rivers thing, but Matthew Stafford to me is a guy that if he stopped playing right now and came back 5 years later, he'll still be able to throw the football up and down the field from various arm angles without even thinking about it.
Yeah, I say it's neck and neck. Going into this week, Drake May was right here, Matthew Stafford's right here. Right now, Matthew Stafford's right here, Drake May's right here.
I wonder
It's a
where Josh
two-man
Allen
race.
is.
It's a two-man race.
No, so no Josh Allen in this
I
conversation.
think he might make
Like a
it
2.5 man race?
2.5 man race.
All right. We'll
He's
have to
there.
watch
It's
It
2.5.
it might get interesting down this stretch. It might.
This division, I feel like the last few years, this NFC West has really just been so fun at this time of the year when teams are fighting to get into the playoff pictures, and it just seems like between the Seahawks, the 49ers, and the Rams as of late, it has just been really fun to watch them fill out this picture. And you look at the 49ers and the ground that they're making. I will never get over the way this team started and the injuries that they were, and everyone was like, all right, it's just another year, and yet we talk about it every single week, Ran, the job that Kyle Shanahan has done to put this Niners team squarely in the playoff conversation.
Yeah, and it's to me, again, it goes back to his leadership and just his ability to stand in front of that room and give them a game plan or even just a feel that they're never out of it, no matter who's playing. We saw them play this Titans team, and it was a good battle. Now, the Niners jumped out on them quick, and then the Titans fought their way back in the game, but they had the players to have those gotta-have-it moments. Now, I think what's going to happen, they're going to get in. They're a 10-win team, and I think each time they've won 10 games or more, they played in the NFC Championship. I just don't see that happening right now because I think the injuries on defense are just too critical right now. Now, they have the offense and the offensive scheme to be able to score points. It's just a matter if they're going to be able to stop people. But, again, to me, and I know there are other coaches that have done hell of a jobs. Ben Johnson's done a hell of a job. There have been a ton of coaches around the league. But if you're talking about a Coach of the Year candidate, to me, it starts with Kyle Shanahan because, to me, he has done the most with the least.
He's a great coach. I mean, this is proof that he's a great coach right now, this season. You lose all those players, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, and they're still not good on defense. Saleh's done a nice job with what he has, but you need the players. But this is a great coaching job. The rest of their schedule, at Indy with Phillip Rivers or Riley Leonard, home against the Bears, and then home against Seattle. Would it surprise you to see him run the table? They could run that table.
It wouldn't surprise me not one bit.
And think about 13 wins with that team. I mean, that's Coach of the Year stuff, and he's never won it, ever.
Yeah, no. So what he's doing with San Fran, phenomenal. But I want to look at Tennessee for a second. I want to step away from the 49ers parade for a second. I want to talk about the Tennessee Titans. Yeah, go ahead, slide over, Rand Carthon. Go ahead, slide. No. He's Pete Priscoing, ladies and gentlemen. He's Pete Priscoing. Let's talk about the Titans, right? Because I know at the end of the game, the 49ers kicked the field goal with about a minute 20 left. You know, it was kind of like just taking the air out of the game. But before that, it was a 10-point game. It looked like they were going to lose by 10, right? You know what happened to the Tennessee Titans? Cam Ward missed a wide-open Westbrook on a touchdown, and they missed a field goal. What does that equate to right there? 10 points?
That is math.
You're tied with San Fran at the end of the game. Who knows what's going to happen at that point? And what I mean, why I'm bringing this up is we know the Titans have had their flaws, whether it's coaching, whether it's playing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But this is this is a perfect example of 50% of their problems. It's self-inflicted wounds. We've talked about Cam Ward. He was the #1 pick, but we're sitting here comparing him to Will Levis all the time. That's a self problem. He hasn't played well enough. The coaching hasn't been well enough. Certain players have not played well enough. And I just think that when you look at this, as great as San Fran has been, as great as of a job as Kyle Shanahan has done with this team, you still were in a position to be tied at the end of this football game. But it was the self-inflicted wounds. And until the Tennessee Titans can stop beating themselves, they can't ever expect to beat another football team.
Don't win anymore. Try and get that first overall pick. And, I mean, that's the major thing right here. If you get the
do
first
people do that in sports?
If you have to, you do. You get the call down from the owner. Don't win. Don't win. I mean, look. The bottom line is, if you get the first overall pick, you have some value. You can trade that pick and get extra picks and help your team for the long run. So Tennessee, don't win again.
Well, I hear your criticisms. I'm not going to touch it. And you talked about guys who hadn't played well. Well, there's one guy that's playing out of his mind right now. Jeffrey Simmons. He is the dude that when he steps off the bus, he requires 4 hands on him. Because you better start double teaming him once he gets off the bus. He is playing absolutely out of his mind. And I know, Pete, you said it's a shame that not everyone gets to see it because they don't play on these big stages, so to speak. But Jeffrey's playing out of his mind.
He's one of the best defensive players in the league this year. And by the way, talking to people around the league, one of the things they said that defensive line is not a 2-12 defensive line. That's not just him. He's been great. Sweat's been good. Boy, where'd they find those players? It's amazing.
It is amazing. The Titans have now lost 11 straight, and the Niners have won 4 straight. And we always win here on Game Day Recap when Ran is on our set. We love to see it. All right, time for a break. Nothing to see here. We do have to kill the mood just a bit here. The injury that we saw earlier today, Micah Parsons and a potential ACL tear. More on Game Day Recap. Welcome back to Game Day Recap. Denver Broncos make it 11 straight in 2025. It is the 3rd longest winning streak in Broncos history, of course. Still some time to potentially catch the 97-98 team with 3 games still left on the schedule. And then, of course, going into the postseason. But 17 wins back in 2012, 2013. I was graduating high school then, you guys, when the Broncos were running the table there. And as it stands, they're your current leader of the AFC. They passed the Patriots, of course, with the Patriots losing to the Bills earlier. They, of course, clinched the postseason as well. You see that X next to their name, but things certainly getting interesting with just 3 games left to go in the regular season. Broncos get a big win over the Packers today. Of course, it comes with a loss. Micah Parsons potentially out. We're still waiting to get the official report there with the ACL. Before we talk about Micah Parsons, though, Pete, I want to actually open up the floor to you because you've been really, really tough on this Broncos team. And I feel like all of us each and every week have kind of had these qualifiers for the Broncos. Oh, they'll be good if. So now that they take out the Packers today, they're 11 wins. What do you think about the Broncos? What do you think about Bo Nix?
If Bo Nix can play like he played today, they can be a real Super Bowl team and a contender. I really believe that. I mean, defensively, we know they can get after the quarterback. We know they can cover on the back end. They have Surtain back now healthy again, although he went out for a couple plays. If they can play in the passing game the way they did today, and by that I mean driving the ball down the field. Last week he was efficient, didn't drive the ball down the field, and the one knock on him is that he passes on shots down the field. Well, today he took them, and he hit them, and he made a lot of big plays. Bo Nix, we saw today, can win a Super Bowl. Bo Nix, from some of those earlier games in the season, can't win a Super Bowl. So if he can continue to play like this, they're going to be tough to beat, and they are the #1 seed. So as of right now, the playoffs go through Denver.
I think he's just settling in. He's settling in his role in this offense and what's required and what's expected from him. And like you said, we joked in saying there was a quarter 1 through 3 Bo Nix, and then there was the 4th quarter Bo Nix.
It's different in that 4th quarter.
And it's the lights come on and the moments are high, and he steps up and he makes plays. But I think right now he's starting to really settle in to the quarterback position in a Sean Payton offense and what's required of him. Again, it's always going to come down to how many times did he turn the ball over. And he did not turn the ball over today. He protected the football and put the ball in the paint 4 times. And so when they're playing like that and with this defense, you talked about Pat Surtain, that play he made downfield on the interception, that is an all-pro defensive player of the year caliber type play, and especially because that play ultimately ended up in Christian Watkins being hurt, and we'll see how much time he's going to miss. But that was a crucial injury to that Green Bay offense.
Yeah, it happened in the third quarter. Tracy Wilson reported on the broadcast that he had to get x-rays on his chest. So again, we're still waiting to learn more there. Damien, something I want to ask you while I have you here to my left. We talk a lot about revenge games, right, or the motivations for a player. Tracy, in that post-game interview with Bo Nix, mentioned that they came into this game as an underdog, and they really shouldn't have come in terms of Vegas being an underdog when you look at the schedule. But his response was, she said, "What did you learn?" And he said, "We're the overdogs." Talk to us about what it's like being in that spot when you kind of feel like you are the team to beat, which is what the Broncos have been all year, and yet you come in, Vegas says you're an underdog, people are still trying to put qualifiers on your success. What's that like?
I mean, I'm sure they can't stand Pete Prisco, but at the end of the day, it's like, to your point, you feel like people are continuing to move the goalposts, and obviously we know what the main goal is. It's not for people to say that you're a good team, it's to hoist the Lombardi trophy, but you do want your respect along the way. There are certain people, I'm not going to say we, certain people at this desk that have not given them their respect, and that plays into their type of mentality. And I feel like a comment like that he made, that also speaks to Rand's point about him settling in and realizing I've arrived at my role on this team. The defense, we already know they play lights out, and if we play the way that we did today, because you want to talk about pushing the ball down the field, you want to talk about hitting those explosive plays, taking those risks. What did that equate to? That equated to them scoring points. Because if you listen to Bo Nix after the game, after he said we should have been overdogs, he said we went from getting down to the red zone and kicking field goals to finishing off drives with points. Somewhere along the lines, they still made it a one-score game, but they were driving the ball down the field and they were scoring points. So I think this attitude of we want our respect, so we're going to go out and take our respect, whether it's a close game, whether it's an explosive game, whether Bo Nix throws for 120 yards or he throws for 4 touchdowns, we're going to earn our respect every step of the way, and that's what they're doing.
Okay,
right now.
so they've won 11 straight games. They're the number 1 seed. Are they going to win the Super Bowl?
Well, according to you,
Are they?
Well, hold on, because I listen more than I talk. So according to Pete Prisco, if Bo Nix continues to play the way that he's playing, then they can. Yes.
Yeah, they can.
That's my answer.
Are they?
We don't know.
No, if you had to pick it right now, would you pick them to win it all?
I wouldn't pick anybody to win it all.
Well, you got to pick somebody.
I don't, because Haley runs this show.
Why do I have to admit?
No. I said you run the show, so he don't get to put me on the spot and tell me when I got to pick something.
I put you on the spot because you just went on a rant, and then I put you on the spot, and you won't say it.
That wasn't no.
You won't say it.
That was more like
you won't say it.
She asked me.
So you don't believe in him either.
And I never said that.
Yeah, you did.
No, I want to give you my honest assessment. Do they have a Super Bowl caliber defense?
Yes.
Absolutely. If Bo Nix plays the way he did today, can they win a Super Bowl?
Yes.
Can I guarantee you that the defense is going to show up every week and that Bo Nix is going to show up every week? No. Can I guarantee you that Josh Allen is going to be Superman every week? No. Can I guarantee you?
Pick somebody.
We don't know yet.
Pick somebody.
There's no cards. We don't have to submit anything. We don't have to pick anybody right now. That wasn't even a question.
Would you pick him right now?
Don't bring me. This is y'all. Keep going.
That wasn't even a question.
It is a question. It's always a question.
No.
Ding, ding, ding. We're gonna have to. We'll have to.
It's always a question.
Next round, you guys. My goodness. If you're asking me, I think the Broncos can win. I'll answer the question. I do believe that the Broncos
that's not the
will
question.
win the Super Bowl.
Can. You said they will win it.
I did say that, and you're right, and that's not correct. I meant to say they can. I was with you.
You're gonna be on somebody's hype video.
I know, right? Here we go. Now we're in the weeds. But I will say, I do think that each and every week, to all of your points, they have improved. And Bo Nix did say after the game, we're getting down into the red zone and we're scoring.
We
so
all
I believe
agree on that.
If they can continue to perform the way they have been performing, then to answer your question, Pete, I think they can win a Super Bowl.
But nobody's saying they will, and they're the number 1 seed in the AFC right now. The number 1 seed, 11 straight wins, and we're all you're criticizing guys like me for saying they aren't winning the Super Bowl, and you won't say it either.
Let's leave it there.
This is a segment where I
point.
drink water and mind my business.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe we'll put this on social and we'll have all of our keyboard warriors weigh in. I do want to talk about Micah Parsons, though, fellas, because obviously, in all seriousness, this was no good. You saw Micah's reaction the second it happened. I believe he said, "I'm done," or he said something to that effect. We heard from Sean McVay earlier in the show. There's clearly some concern there when it comes to Micah Parsons. Pete, just how much did this change the trajectory of what this team can do in the postseason if Micah Parsons is indeed out?
Well, you lose a player like that, he's a game changer. And so he's game, on the line, sack, fumble, game over. That's who he is. And you lose him, that impacts your defense greatly. Now, I thought this team, even before the trade, could be a Super Bowl team. The problem is he's not alone going to the sideline. They lost their right tackle, Zach Tom. He might be gone for a month. Christian Watson went out. He's the deep speed on offense. They've already lost a bunch of guys. They lost Kraft already. They lost their starting center, Elgin Jenkins. I mean, they've just been crippled by injuries. Evan Williams, the starting safety, went down today. So you're talking about a team that was loaded with talent that all of a sudden you start getting them one by one, you pick them off. And anytime you lose your best offensive lineman, your best pass rusher, your starting center, your tight end who can make plays in the field, and other guys on that defense, you're going to be asking for it.
I think when you just lay out that laundry list of names you just laid out, I think that plays into why we saw Matt LaFleur looking the way he did post-game. It always sucks, and it's going to hurt to lose a player like Micah Parsons, and just the impact that he's had on this team. He's one of the top sack guys. He is their top sack guy, but then one of the top sack guys in the league. And having spent some time around him this summer and seeing his process, like understanding what went into him having the type of season he had, I believe it was him. It was Myles Garrett and what's the guy in Houston, the young guy, Will Anderson Jr. All three of those guys trained together this past offseason, and look at the type of year that they're all having. They're all having great years, and you know, it's going to hurt. And like we talked about, having other teams see their key guys go down and how that kind of deflates the team, right? And when you're the defensive coordinator, Jeff Hafley, now you got to retool your game plan because there were so many different ways that you can move Micah around to create those one-on-one matchups for him to be able to get to the quarterback on third down and get your defense off the field. But, you know, you wish Micah a speedy recovery. You hope for the best. And he is the type of guy that if anybody's going to beat this and come back better than ever and stronger than ever, I believe it will be him.
Yeah, no, I think when we look at this and we make all these different analogies, just look at how the end of the game played out. Green Bay was completely flat. Offensively, defensively. They kicked a field goal to get 3 points, but other than that, they had no rhythm, nothing as a team. I just think that is the biggest indicator of how important this loss of Micah Parsons is to the Green Bay Packers.
I try and think back, history and when two plays changed a team's season like they did today. The first play was they were cruising, and they threw that interception down the middle of the field, and Watson went down, flipped the game. Then you lose Parsons, and they were deflated. And now you go out they have to go out on the road next week and play the Bears. And all of a sudden you look at that team, and they were the 1 seed cruising along. Oh no, the Rams were losing at one point. And now they're scrambling to make the playoffs. That just tells you it's a survival test. The whole season for every team in this league, and the Packers are living it, is a survival test.
And just real quick, because now Rashawn Gary was getting a lot of one-on-ones because you got to turn your attention to Micah Parsons and get hands on him and be able to chip. And now you kind of feel, and I would have to go back and watch the tape, but it felt like down the stretch, Rashawn Gary kind of went quiet because now you could slide protection over to him. So they're going to need to find another guy, whether that's Van Ness or J.J. Ngambari. One of those guys are going to have to step up, or a lot of other guys are going to have to step up to create that level of production that Micah had.
Big tests coming up as well. You mentioned they go to Chicago next week. They also have Ravens and Vikings right now who are handling my Cowboys right now. It's 14-14, but we saw J.J. McCarthy get in the end zone using his legs. 9. Yes, 9. Every time you do that, it gives me anxiety.
You're like, wait, what?
Oh, my goodness. Okay, I think we got to hit a break here on Game Day Recap. We will leave it there. When we come back, the Texans and the Jags, boy, have they been heating up. We are on a collision course for an exciting finish in the AFC South. We'll break down both of those teams next on Game Day Recap. You all know we had a little kumbaya during the break. We are all back on the same page here on Game Day Recap, and we are resetting with the AFC playoff picture. Of course, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars highlighted, I should say, as they take down the Jets 48-20. Trevor Lawrence, the fourth quarterback in NFL history with 6 total touchdowns and 50 or more rushing yards in a game. He was electric, and the Jaguars all of a sudden are just.
Y'all don't know how much. Y'all don't know how much me and Pete Prisco actually love each other.
You feel it?
The people out there, I don't feel anything. I don't feel anything that can run over producer Jack.
Hey, by the way, he still hasn't answered the question.
Leaving that question in the freaking G block.
We are,
That was
God.
intense. But let's talk about your boy Trevor Lawrence, because it has been.
We need to just make this the Pete segment because
Yeah, come on.
No, as Jacqueline likes to call him, T-Law, which is
T-Law,
not
I
true.
know,
Which
it's
is not true.
I've never
Nobody
heard
calls him
anyone other than
T-Law. Nobody
Jacqueline
calls him T-Law.
T-Law. No, seriously, Pete, like this team this year, and we've talked about this a lot, right? A lot of these teams going on roller coaster events, but we kind of all felt like there was something missing in Jacksonville. And all of a sudden, we talked about it last week, Jacoby Myers comes over, and all of a sudden, Trevor Lawrence looks like a completely different quarterback. Here he is with 6 touchdowns total today. How is he elevating this Jaguars team, especially with how the playoff picture is looking?
Early in the year, he was not comfortable at all. And I think his eyes were coming down. The pass rush was getting to him. He just didn't look like he was in a rhythm. He didn't trust the receivers. There were a lot of drop balls. They get Jacoby Myers. He understands the offense better. The protection's been better. And all of a sudden, you're seeing Trevor Lawrence play like Trevor Lawrence. This is the guy that people expected to see. Is he still one of the top quarterbacks in the league? No, not even close. But if he can play, we talk about a guy like he can play like this consistently. I mean, today is an aberration. You're not going to have 6 touchdowns. Sure. But he is, the last 3 weeks, much more confident in throwing the football. He's pushing the ball down the field. Early in the season, he was passing on shots down the field, taking easy throws. You can't play that way in this league. You have to be able to hit the shots. I think it's all come together. I credit Jacoby Myers a great deal. Look what he's doing to Brian Thomas. Brian Thomas, the last 3 weeks, has been actually a better receiver because he watches Jacoby Myers and he watches how he works. This team offensively is really good right now, and they're going to be scary for whoever they play starting next week. You know who they play next week? At Denver.
And isn't it crazy how much that matchup looks, how different it feels at this point of the season? Maybe they'll win the Super Bowl, maybe they won't. We'll have to
Is that?
it's
Not picking them to win the Super Bowl. No,
Okay.
I can actually say,
but
no, I'm not picking that. No, I'm not.
We love transparency. We also love giving credit where credit's due, and we had this conversation a couple weeks ago, Ran, when it comes to Liam Cohen and the job that he has done in year 1. And there was that moment in the Texans game where that was the turning point. We've heard that really for the last 2 weeks, that the headset came off, him and Trevor Lawrence were arguing, and that game was the turning point. And now you look at what he's done, 10 wins. That's the first time since 2017 this team has had a 10-win season. How much is his coaching trickling down to what the Jags are doing?
Duval.
Well, he doesn't like that, by the way.
Well, he said it, but I didn't say it.
He didn't like it either.
No, he doesn't like it when you mock him for it.
I mean, he did it. It's out there. No, but that entire organization has done a great job. From Liam Cohen to Tony Boselli to James Gladstone, and the way those guys are working, and they have an identity of what they want a Jacksonville Jaguar to be, and it starts with Liam Cohen. And you talked about Trevor Lawrence getting comfortable. You knew there were going to be some growing pains with the new offense and how hard Liam Cohen was going to coach him. I don't think he's quite had that probably since high school, someone really just on him, pressing him to be better. But as much as I want to give Trevor Lawrence all the credit, obviously he touches the ball on every play. He has to distribute the ball. To me, the acquisition of Jacoby Myers is what really set them off, because now with Trevor Lawrence, you have a target that is going to be where he is supposed to be, and he's someone that you can trust to catch the ball every single time. And I think you talked about it earlier when he would get to the top of his drop and he peeks at the rush to see where he's going. That's because Brian Thomas was still trying to figure out where should he be in this read or how to convert a route. But now you have a seasoned veteran who's played in one of the more complex systems in the Josh McDaniels system and what the receivers asked to do. And you have a guy like Jacoby Myers that comes into that room, that comes into that offense and settles everything down and brings a veteran presence.
They got to be careful, though, because if you look at what the Texans are doing also in that division, they are now 9-2 since starting the season, 0-3. You've got a Nico Collins who goes over 1,000 yards for the 3rd consecutive season. You've got a C.J. Stroud who is quieting a lot of that noise that we heard at the beginning of the year about what kind of quarterback he was going to be in year 3, Damien. And then when you look at the schedule, they've got the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Colts left here. Realistically, how much of a threat are the Texans right now?
They're just as much of a threat as anybody else, because if C.J. Stroud plays the way that he's been playing, with this defense playing the way as good as this defense is, if they can protect C.J. Stroud, if Woody Marks can run the football, if Nico Collins can continue to stretch the field vertically, they're going to be a threat. And what I love most, I just mentioned the offensive line, they dominated up front. They dominated in the trenches. The Texans ran for 150 yards. C.J. Stroud was only sacked one time. And that's been something that's been talked about a lot in C.J. Stroud's career. Can the offensive line protect them? Well, if they do and he plays well, they have the receiving threat in Nico Collins, the tight ends, the running backs doing their job, they can make a run in the playoffs.
I'm glad you mentioned the offensive line because they finally settled on it. Trent Brown, at right tackle. He's settled in at right tackle and kind of solidified the group. They moved Howard to left guard. They're bigger, they're stronger, and they are protecting him. Early in the season, they were a disaster. You're right. If they protect C.J. Stroud, he's going to be able to make throws down the field. They're another team nobody's going to want to play in the postseason.
This, again, the Houston Texans, it all starts and ends with that defense. And their big moniker is swarm. And I believe if you pause the tape at the point of every tackle, you can count anywhere from 8 to 11 Texans in the picture when it's time to make that tackle on the football. The defense has played lights out from start to finish, but it was about the offense catching up. It was about Nick Caley settling into becoming a play caller for the first time, figuring out what he has, how to design a game plan around what he has at that particular time, and being able to make those adjustments. And I think now we're starting to see that. The best thing that has happened for this Houston Texans team, unfortunately, was C.J. Stroud missing that time and being able to sit back and watch Davis Mills operate this offense and learn that I don't have to do everything. Let me just do my part, play complementary football, and know when to get rid of the football, punt, and let our defense play for us. And I think that really helped CJ because he's become really efficient in the offense since he came back from injury.
Yeah, you mentioned defense. Coming up, we're going to talk about a player who's been wrecking it on defense. But as we have said this entire time, the Super Bowl is really anyone's game. It's up for grabs. That is the one thing that we've learned.
Even maybe the Broncos. I don't know.
Maybe the Broncos or the Texans or anyone. All right, let's talk about that defensive player who has been making and turning some heads. The Cleveland Browns have certainly been a lot of fun to watch, but no one more fun than Myles Garrett. A historic season on the brink of making some history. We'll talk about it next. Back here on Game Day Recap, Cleveland's defense has really become must-watch TV if you are watching that man right there. Myles Garrett continues to chip away at that single-season sack record. He added a sack and a half today against the Bears, meaning he is just one away from history. He's up to 21 and a half sacks this season. Of course, that you see there the list of names who have hit 22 and a half sacks. It most recently happened in 2021 with TJ Watt. Of course, Michael Strahan holds that record, but we still have 3 games to go in the regular season. So a good shot that we see Myles Garrett get that record sooner rather than later. You got the Browns hosting the Bills, so I feel like it would be kind of fun to get the record by taking down Josh Allen a couple of times. Either way, the Bears win this one 31-3. Welcome back to Game Day Recap here. We don't get to talk about the Browns a lot, but when we do, it typically is surrounding that defense and Shedeur Sanders. But I want to focus on Myles Garrett and the impact that he has had this year. Damien, for a team that has just really struggled to have an identity, different players coming in and out of the lineup, how has that security blanket of Myles Garrett and the history that he's chasing, why has that been so important for the Browns this year?
He is the identity of the Cleveland Browns. I mean, I know we talk a lot about Shedeur. We talk a lot about the quarterback situation, Kevin Stefanski, all these things. There is no Cleveland Browns without Myles Garrett. He is an unstoppable force. He is truly the only thing that every single week when you turn on the Cleveland Browns, he's going to be the only guy that you see playing up to a standard that is a winning culture, that is trying to develop a winning culture. And quite frankly, he's one of the all-time greats. I mean, we can go ahead and say it. We don't have to wait until the end of his career to give him his flowers. He's one of the all-time greats. And Pete, I'll even ask you the question, because I promise I'm not trying to be outlandish. I just wasn't around for guys like LT. I wasn't here. When it's all said and done, where do you think Myles Garrett will rank in the likes of LT, Reggie White,
Bruce Smith,
Yeah, like where do you think
Deacon Jones?
Yeah, where do you think he'll end up in that conversation?
He's going to be in the top
5.
7.
Top 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, look, in my mind, LT's the greatest pass rusher who ever played the game. And if you gave me one defensive player to pick for the history of the game, I would pick LT. But Myles Garrett's in the top 5 to 7. I would agree. I mean, there's been so many great players. I mean, Deacon Jones was a great pass rusher. They didn't even compile sacks back then to know what the numbers were. And so you're right. You mentioned a lot of them: Derek Thomas and Bruce Smith and Reggie White. But he's in the conversation, no question about it.
It's crazy because I literally have this question written down. Pete, where do you rank him in terms of the guys you've seen covering in the league? So thank you, Dame. Do you want to switch?
No, I just want to fist
You don't run this. She runs this. You don't run anything.
Take the seat.
Yeah, you guys come.
She's giving it away twice today.
You're next.
I literally said I was having no interceptions today.
And there you are. It is interesting, too, because it wasn't that long ago that we saw Myles Garrett have the contract dispute, right, going into the season, just how important that extension became, obviously, the 4-year, $160 million deal. His team did not win the football game, though. That was the Chicago Bears. And we kind of had some questions about them last week, Pete. They dropped the performance to the Packers, but they bounced back in a big way. The score, not surprising so much as them winning the game, but what did you take away from the Bears at this point of the season?
Well, coming off that loss last week, you could see where you'd be a little flat. I mean, that was tough. They played a good football game last week at Green Bay, had shots to win it at the end of the game. He was intercepted in the end zone. Sometimes you come off of that game and you're a little flat. They were to start the game, but they got it going. Now, look, they picked off Shedeur Sanders 3 times. That kind of flipped the field and it turned it into points for their offense. But Caleb Williams made some throws today where I went, wow.
That DJ Moore touchdown was crazy.
Across his body into the back of the end zone, it was a rifle shot. And they, right now, if you sit there and you say, okay, the way the schedule looks right now, they have Green Bay coming to them next week. And that's a big game in that division. And I think if they win it, I think they actually win the division.
Yeah, and I think with this Chicago Bears team, what you want to see is the consistency, right? And Caleb Williams, you talked about that wild throw, that DJ Moore throw. That was a baller. Like that was a hell of a throw. But the one thing I'll say about that, and I'm gonna go Pete Prisco here. I think he's starting to lean on those type of throws too often. We saw the way the game ended last week. Had he just set his feet and put the ball to the pylon or to the corner of the end zone, you win the football game.
Right.
But he got himself in that cool position where he's got to come back across his body, and it left the ball hanging inside that got picked off. And so, but that's who Caleb Williams is. You have to live with the ebbs and flows of his game because you're going to get those bright spot moments like we saw today. But you talk about this defense. The Chicago defense had 5 sacks today. And we talked about the offensive line of the Cleveland Browns and how they've just been having to move people around. And they still have to get better at protecting their quarterback, whomever it is. But they took advantage of a team today and got a victory, which we've argued against other teams who hadn't been able to do that. So whenever you can come away with a victory, it's going to be great, especially heading into the game they have next week.
Booker getting 2 sacks is big for the Bears because he's a young pass rusher. They need somebody on the other side of Sweat, and they finally got that pass rush going a little bit too.
It was Caleb Williams' 21st start without an interception as well. So clearly he's taking care of the football. Good things are happening for the Chicago Bears. Let's go ahead and take a break here because I want to talk about some teams who were eliminated from the postseason. It is beach season in the NFL for a handful of teams. We'll talk about maybe which ones are the most surprising next on Game Day Recap.
Just take the next right. Mr. Krause, we just passed the turnoff.
Uh-huh.
My house is back that way, Mr. K.
Far out, little man. Far out.
My favorite thing about that was do you remember that episode of SpongeBob?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
That was my favorite part, honestly, was being on this side of the table and watching you guys watch that clip. The Chargers social media team is unmatched. As you can see, the Kansas City Chiefs are packing their bags. I'm not sure Patrick Mahomes knows what Cancun feels like at this time of the year, in January even. But they are on the outside looking in when it comes to that postseason picture, which means the draft order is becoming clearer and clearer. The Giants right now still holding on to that #1 overall pick. The Raiders really doing a good job to try and get in the mix as well for that first pick too. We saw the Bengals get eliminated today. The Rams there with number 10. But we're going to talk about the teams that are eliminated from postseason play. and it starts with the Bengals, who lost to the Ravens. So let's actually talk about the Ravens. That makes more sense here. The Ravens have also been kind of a wonky team. We were out on them, we were in on them a week ago, and then we were out on them last week, and now are we back in? Like, what are the vibes when it comes to the Ravens and them shutting out Joe Burrow and the Bengals today, Damien?
Well, I mean, I'm not super impressed with the fact that they shut out the Bengals, but there's still, when you look at the Ravens and you see all the players that they have, obviously starting with Lamar Jackson, you see the potential, but with a lot of these other teams, it's the consistency that we want. We don't want to see this up and down from a multiple-time MVP. We don't want to see the up and down from Derrick Henry, who's been one of the greatest backs of our generation. We don't want to see the up and down from this defense that was once, at one point, the best defense in the league, even with the players that they currently have. Guys like Roquan Smith, Marlon Humphreys. Like, we haven't seen it on a consistent enough level. It was an impressive win today. Obviously, we know the Bengals, they're not really playing for much of anything. I mean,
not anymore.
Yeah, I mean, definitely not now. But I mean, even just going back and listening to, if you want to re-listen to Joe Burrow's comments last week, I mean, I'm not surprised that the Bengals went out there and laid an egg. But again, the Ravens did what they had to do in order to win. But we can't be sold because they've been very inconsistent.
Do you believe in the Ravens?
Define believe.
You got to pick.
You got to pick.
No, I'm just saying, I'm serious. Like, define believe.
Believe that they can get over the hump, believe that this team can shock us and get into the postseason and even make some noise. Like, is there any sense that this Ravens team can be in that Super Bowl conversation?
I'll say based off of what I've seen, particularly out of them the last 2 weeks, I would have to say no. And that's just based, again, that you don't feel them when they play. And again, it's a tale of two seasons almost. Now, they dug themselves a very deep hole that they're still working their way on climbing themselves out of. But I still don't feel them, even though they dominated this game. They won 24-0 and they shut them out. It still did not feel like a dominant performance to me. And we were talking about the Cincinnati Bengals. In my mind, they've been eliminated from the playoffs for a while. I know mathematically you're telling me there's a chance.
Yeah.
There was a chance, but in my mind, they were already eliminated once Joe Burrow went down, and then they lost the game. I was like, I don't see this happening, especially in that division. You know it's going to come down to the Week 18 matchup against the Steelers and the Ravens, and so I just automatically had them out of it.
You know why it doesn't feel like it's the Ravens? A couple of reasons. One is they used to beat the daylights out of you. You play them and you'd get up and you played them, you get up and you felt it. You felt it the next week. Not that way anymore. The other side of that is Lamar Jackson's not Lamar Jackson right now. He just isn't. When you look at his numbers today, 8 of 12 for 150 yards. 2 touchdowns, and he had a couple drops, by the way. Zay Flowers dropped a couple. And then Derrick Henry ran for 100. He got a lot of that, a couple runs. They just don't feel like the Ravens right now. And yeah, they did shut out a good offense when T. Higgins is there, and he wasn't there today. But he did shut them out. But I just don't feel like they're a good football team. And about 3 weeks ago, I said, watch out. Remember, we both did. We sat here, we said, watch out. They're going to get hot. They're going to get hot and maybe be a team that nobody wants to play. I don't feel that way right now. I just don't after the last couple weeks.
Yeah, they've been I'm glad you brought up the numbers there. We did see Derrick Henry crossing the 100-yard mark, but even with that, it just doesn't feel special, to your point. It might just be we'll
play
have
the
to
Patriots
next
year. Week, though. That's a big game for both those teams. I mean, the Ravens need it, and now the Patriots need it in terms of the 1 seed, maybe.
Yeah, it would be a good bounce-back game in New England as well. Speaking of bounce-back games, we saw the Eagles, no real surprise at the score in this one. They also get a shutout win, 31-0. Ran, when we talk about the Eagles and what this team has become, how important was today just to get Saquon Barkley going, to get Jalen Hurts sort of back into the swing of things, Nick Sirianni even settling on the sidelines? What was this game? Why was this game important for Philly?
Listen, I know a lot of people are going to look and say, but it was the Raiders. This was a perfect matchup for them. And I hate to say this about another professional team, but this was a pick-me-up game for them. This was probably the best opponent for them to face at this current state of this franchise, just to be able to get that one win under your belt, get some good play from your offense and defense, and now hopefully you start to settle into a rhythm. This was the perfect matchup for them coming off the performance that they had last week.
The Eagles' backup offense, producer Jack sent me this note. The Eagles' backup offense had more yards on their only drive of the game, 79 yards, than the Raiders had the entire game, which was 75 yards. So obviously, yes, we joke, it was the Raiders, but you need that bounce back. And Pete, when you look at the NFC race as a whole here and the rest of the schedule for the Eagles, it's got to be a motivational boost too for them.
Yeah, they had to get off the snide after what happened last week. I mean, that was a bad loss last week. It really was. They had that game. They should have won the game. They didn't. Now you go, it was a short week. You come home and the Raiders are a bye week. That's basically what it was. You get Kenny Pickett. Well, I mean, think about it. Kenny Pickett started at quarterback. He threw for 64 yards. I mean, you can't win NFL games like that. The good news for the Eagles is they had 4 sacks. I mean, that pass rush, which we had started to worry about, at least I had a little bit, had 4 sacks against the Raiders. Brandon Graham had 2. You talk about old man, we talk about Phillip Rivers, an old man who came out of retirement, and he had 2 sacks today. They have to be better up front. I think they were better up front. Again, it's a hard gauge because of who they're playing.
Yeah, I just want to say this. At the beginning of the season, we made a lot of conversation about the Philadelphia Eagles have championship pedigree. They have championship DNA. A game like this, if they just all lock in and get confidence from this game and they find a rhythm, well, guess what I'm going to say? They've got just as good of a chance as anybody else to make a run and defend their championship. They do, because they've been there before. They just, obviously we know they're not a perfect team. They have their flaws. But again, they have the pieces, and as long as they put those pieces together, look at what they can do. You agree, Pete?
I do agree with you. Okay. There's too much talent on that team.
Growth.
There's too much talent on that team. Well, he's actually been right for once. There's too much talent on that team for them not to make a run. I really believe that.
This is what we get.
We try.
I think he want another hug from me. That's what it is. He want another hug.
No, I'll pass.
It's all right. I know
We're going to get a positivity rabbit in here.
See what happens.
It works. It works.
It didn't work because they lost last week and then they killed the positivity rabbit. He's out of there and they won. We don't need that thing around here.
But we do have a positivity rabbit in the building, the same one that the Eagles do. One of our Mackenzie Brooks or one of the what are their Mikey Overs. What do they call themselves? The underachievers.
Yeah,
they brought one into the office. So
we need that because I need some positivity.
You do need some positivity.
Too negative, way too negative.
The Giants need some positivity as well too here. You guys are making me lose my train of thought here. We're going to talk about the Giants and how they're holding on to the #1 overall pick currently. Rand, put your GM hat on us Put your GM hat on for us. Biggest need for the Giants right now?
Well, let me start here. If they finish the season with the #1 pick, they are prime position for anyone to have a huge impact because everyone is going to be making offers for them to move out of that #1 spot. They'll be able to acquire some picks. They got to protect the young quarterback. I think they have their guy in Jackson Dart, but they got to be able to protect him, and they have to be able to build around him and give him some more offensive playmakers. So depending on where they're picking, I don't know that there's a bona fide guy at #1 in terms of a receiver or even an offensive lineman for that matter that you're going to take at #1. But depending on how far down they go, I think a receiver will be there for them. I think an offensive lineman will be there for them. But they're in prime position right now to kind of hold the rest of the draft hostage.
They're trading that pick. I mean, you're going to get 2 1s and something else for that pick, and they're going to trade it. And they need Neighbors. Let's not forget, Neighbors is coming back. Yep. They need somebody to go with him, and they also need offensive linemen in the worst way. And they could also use some people in the secondary too. I mean,
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
If you really want to address the top need of your team, for me, I would think it's going to be in the secondary. But if y'all don't mind, can I get some flowers real quick? Abdul Carter, finally, right? We heard all these things in the media about he does this, he's been benched these couple times, he hasn't gotten his act together. We saw the post-game interview where he didn't want to talk about it. He said, hey, stuff happens. Well, he finally delivered something today that when you looked at Abdul Carter at Penn State, this is what you expected in the NFL. 5 tackles, 5 solo, 2 assisted, a sack, 2 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery. That is what we've been expecting from Abdul Carter. It's been unfortunate that he's taken himself off the field because this is the type of player that he can be. And with the rest of those parts on that Giants defensive line, he can make them even better than what they are.
Grow the hell up, son. You can make a lot of money and a lot of sacks in your career. Just be a professional, show up on time, and do your work.
And I will say in his defense, too, because we don't talk about this enough, because of how high he was picked, we have to remember that this is just his 2nd year playing the position. playing the outside linebacker position, being a rusher, because he was an off-the-ball linebacker. So, I mean, the arrow is definitely pointing up, but we just have to remember that he is still learning how to play the position.
Yeah, but also that should give you enough reason to show up on time and do your work, too.
Put some headphones in.
Do your job. It's what we preach here.
Mind-numbing.
All right.
Mind-numbing.
Let's wrap up this show. Should we wrap up this show? I think we should.
Wrap it up.
Coming up next, it's time for winners and losers, baby. We had some big performances. We had some not so big performances. We will tell you who our winners and losers are on the other side here on Game Day Recap. You guys hear that? That fan blowing? I don't know if you can. We got a special guest in the studio for our favorite segment of winners and losers. We got the normal cast of characters. We were talking about being more positive today, and so we brought in our positivity bunny. This is the real winner of the day.
Look at that thing.
It's ridiculous.
You know what? Kickers are great. Running backs don't grow on trees. See, it's working. It's unbelievable. Bo Nix can win a Super Bowl. It's unreal. You're not really what you think you are. You just happen to look like you are.
Stop.
I was like, I actually prefer.
You're just as genuine. Hey, stop. Just stop. Come
here, buddy.
Stop.
Come here, buddy.
It's like when I go home and say the wrong thing to my 3-month-old and he just starts crying. Like you pissed him off.
I'm the only man in America that can talk so poorly and the dumb thing would fall back.
It's dumb now.
Hey, well, who would put that thing in a locker room?
The Eagles.
If you,
the reigning Super Bowl
I don't
champs.
get it. If you were playing for a team and they put that in a locker room, what would you think?
It's okay. It's okay.
You want to give us your winner?
Yeah,
You want to go? You want to go? Or
Yeah.
are you still going to vamp about
I
the
just
bunny?
can't. I never
Be
believe in that
positive.
kind of stuff. I'm going to be positive. It's the Buffalo Bills. I mean, look, 21-0 down, season on the line. And when you look at it, some people thought maybe they won't make the playoffs. They rally. Josh Allen became Superman. Buffalo is my winner.
I'm going with the Los Angeles Chargers.
Okay.
I think they had a signature. I'm speaking to the never mind. Wowzers. Okay, let me start over.
Loser, rank Carthon.
I am going with the Los Angeles Chargers. I think they had a signature win today that can really push them forward in the tournament. They got a great performance out of their defense, 5 sacks today. Justin Herbert, he's a real dude. I'm going with the Chargers.
I'm going with Trevor Lawrence. Listen, first player in NFL history, 5 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown, 50 rushing yards. Today was the first time I looked at Trevor Lawrence and said, you earned all that money that they gave you. Trevor Lawrence is my winner.
It's working.
Mm-hmm.
The positivity.
Me and Trevor Lawrence are friends now.
Right there.
Somehow this bunny is close to me. It should be between you
I like
two.
that you're just like holding his hand.
Listen,
through this.
I'm
Like,
just
you guys
helping
are
my
just
buddy
holding
out.
His hands, helping him out.
Yes, he is.
My winner, my positivity bunny winner this week is Bo Nix. I feel like he really earned the honor. Obviously, he went out and kept this win streak alive in Denver. I think they can win the Super Bowl. It's still anyone's game. All those buzzwords we have said today, but I'm going Bo Nix, getting in on a lot of touchdowns today. All right, let's pivot over to our losers. So I feel like we can maybe, well, I don't know.
Throw him down. Throw that damn thing down. I'll throw it down.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Just
yeah.
My loser this week is the Carolina Panthers because you had an opportunity to close the gap in the NFC South, and instead you go out and you get swept by the Saints. So my loser is the Panthers, and right now my loser is the positivity.
No, he's not losing. He's just taking a little nap. That's all.
Who's your
He's
loser?
taking a little, my loser, the Green Bay Packers. Not only did you lose the game, but obviously you lost your most important piece. And a long list of injuries to your team. We saw it. The look on Matt LaFleur's face said it all. So Packers are my losers.
Go ahead.
I'm just bugged out that you're actually this close to me.
I'm not that close.
Let's start there. But my loser is me. I'm calling myself a loser because I have been down on the Chargers. I have been very vocal in terms of not believing in them, not buying stock in them. And I think today they told me to shut up, mind my business, and let Jim Harbaugh do what he does best, which is coach a good football team. So I'm giving myself the loser of the day.
My losers are Kansas City Chiefs. No Patrick Mahomes, no playoffs. It's just a terrible ending to a season, and I kept saying they're going to get there, they're going to get there. Well, they're not getting there, and it's a sad thing. And the real loser is this stupid thing. Get it the hell out of here. Positivity rabbit. Give me a break.
Hey, Ray, you ever seen
And
that?
from that point,
Hey, hold on. Have you ever seen that video of Tory Lanez whenever he get out the chair and he gets shorter?
that's why I was like,
What just happened to
we
Prisco?
couldn't tell if he was standing or sitting. 'cause you know-
No idea.
Positivity, buddy.
That might be one of the corniest things I've ever seen in the National Football League, by the way.
I'm glad that other people are recognizing that. No positivity buddies allowed here on Game Day Recap. I'm still
Hell no.
shook at Pete Prisco field punting the rabbit to the other side of the studio. But that's what you get here on Game Day Recap. We went a little late today. We had some big breaking news, of course, with a lot of the injuries. But either way, so much fun. We got the band back together. We got the positivity buddy.
And Positivity Rabbit's dead, by the way.
And we will see you guys next Sunday.
No longer with us.
It's a damn shame what they did to that rabbit.